I'm sure that you're seeing all around that you see all your millennial friends starting to get super nice cars. Everyone's posting their vacations. You see everyone buying a house. And we can see in the actual data that millennials have made $5 trillion in the past 2 years. It is the drastic increase with the extreme volatility move to the upside of these millennial workers that have made a ton of money, whether it was through the pandemic stimulus checks, the unemployment, the PPP loans. We see most of the data coming from them actually owning a house and the equity in that house increasing. Therefore, they feel much wealthier. And we can actually see this. I'm sure everybody here knows one of their millennial friends who's made an impulsive purchase, whether it was like we were kind of just talking about all these luxurious items. But why is that? It's because of the wealth effect, where they own a house, they own equities, and those equities the house has just exploded in value over these past few years because of these extreme asset bubbles. And with that, they went out and they go purchase these extreme luxury goods, and they feel extremely rich, and they're showing all their friends, because we all know millennials were raised in a culture where if it is not on Instagram, it did not happen. So everybody's trying to prove different things where they're showing people that they are extremely rich. Where is the actual issue arising? So the problem arises from this quote. While millennials gained $4.8 trillion in wealth in these past 2 years, Gen X gained $16.4 trillion and now have a sum total of $42 trillion. We can see the millennials now have about $9.5 trillion of quote unquote wealth. The millennials feel extremely rich, but in proportion to their generation, they are actually still extremely poor. And we can even see this with data. Millennials had an average of $127,000 in net worth in the first quarter of 2022. That compared to that, adjusted for inflation, the boomers at the same age had $10,000 more than that at $136,000.
Yeah, and Josh, I guess my thinking on this front is that I saw a graph from, I think it was Visual Economist, saying the majority of millennials' wealth is held in real estate. Well, it makes sense, or whatever, right? Millennials are now probably the oldest ones are in the late 30s, early 40s, so they probably would have had themselves well enough put together to buy a home. But the thing on that front is that if millennials are buying homes and if real estate's inflated or whatever, right, and more importantly, if millennials are buying homes with, debt or whatever, right, I would say that it's not just the wealth effect, but it's almost this thing where the level of wealth is being supported by artificially high prices. Equities would be another example of this. I would point out, P/E ratios in terms of equities right now. In other words, they're expensive. And so I don't know what's going to happen, but I would say this is the two cautionary things I would note. Number one, when real estate values go up, particularly for those who own real estate, it looks good. You look very wealthy, but the problem is you feel very poor, because guess what? When your real estate values go up, so do your taxes, so does the cost to insure your home or whatever, right? So it's a double-edged sword. Again, you look wealthy, but you feel poor. The second thing is that if you do have a deflation when it comes to real estate, and assume you don't always need to sell, it's going to be painful, because if you bought a home for, I don't know, $500,000, whatever, right? You took out a mortgage of $450,000, numbers out of my backside here, and suddenly the home values dropped to $350 or whatever, right? You're underwater. And again, if you're planning on staying in the home, if you already have a family established, whatever, right? If you don't lose your job, you can keep paying your mortgage, but sooner or later, if the wealth that you have is based upon these inflated prices, and if you've taken on debt, as you probably have to buy a home in order to do this, and you have deflation on that front, I don't know what's going to happen to the millennials as a cadre, to this cadre of people who have bought homes with debt and now are underwater, and therefore they might walk away. So again, I that's just speculation on my part, but I would note the fact that with asset price inflation, particularly in real estate, you look rich but feel poor.
It's just the classic wealth effect. When asset prices are going up, you feel more wealthy, you buy more things. But the reverse wealth effect is the complete opposite. And we are seeing that as the asset prices start to come down, you feel more poor and you spend less. But what happens when you already made these purchases, when you've already taken out consumer debt to go on these vacations because you assumed that asset prices were going to continue to go up? You have made a lot of false assumptions, and you are coming due to pay the fiddler. And what is going to happen when, just because the millennials have doubled their net worth in the past 2 years, what's going to happen if asset prices fall by 50%? Are they going to lose 50% of their net worth in the next 2 years?
Yeah, so that question is very easy to answer. There's three options. Either you refinance or you roll the debt. You service the debt, or you walk away from the debt, or you default. And so what's interesting as far as the millennials go is that if you're just starting off or whatever, right, like the painful cost of walking away from debt at the beginning of your life is a little less, I think, than walking away at the mid or to the end of your life. And the reason is you have more time to kind of put your life back together, versus a mistake midlife, which would be tricky, or even in late life. Although in late life, I guess you already made it. Who the blank cares? If you walk away, but.
What experiences have you had with seeing the net worth of the individuals that you know? Have they gone up drastically? And how are their spending behaviors changing now that we're starting to see a slowing in both the real estate and all asset prices across the country? Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.